gonna do
Well,
much.
I think early on, Bruce told us that in his experience and everything I guess he'd read was that it wouldn't do it.
One other scenario could be the no bin, no barrel. That would require a lot of monitoring at the transfer station where you had to bring all your stuff up there. In other words, if you're, I don't know if that would work. If you're choosing not to use island rubbish, then you're responsible for your own recycling, and the only way you can use a transfer station is if you also use, bring recycling up there. And that would mean that the transfer station would have to be reorganized to have a recycling. I don't think that would.
I think that would be a burden on the transfer station, and it would be a burden on the residents dragging three
having to
things.
throw the bins in the car, and what if you don't have a van? What if you have a Prius? How do you get your stuff?
Yeah, because what is the recycling cost the town right now to have that picked up? What did he say?
That contract is just coming up, he said, we just talked about that.
$109,000 and some $1,000.
But more and more, as things become more recyclable, like if we get battery collection up there, and people know about it, and as, you know, every day they're starting to recycle more and more. And
I think the biggest problem is the limitations you have on recycling. I mean, like one of my daughters lives in Boston. You can recycle everything up there, and everything goes in one bin. You know, other areas of the country, like California, you have one big trash barrel.
that's probably coming too,
everything.
you know?
No, and
Maybe
our
we get
limitations
that.
are because of resource recovery, where they're limited in what they accept up there. And
I think they're
recycle.
supposed to get better.
You gotta look at the,
Within a year, they
that
told the
tour
kids at
that's
the school.
on Jamestown.
Yeah,
Review.
I don't get to that.
And watch how they separate stuff. The belt is moving at 100 miles an hour, and people are going like this, tossing stuff out.
How inefficient is that?
Yeah, and what the lady said, in fact, Crystal, the girl that came, she was the one that gave the tour. She said that the company that they sell the paper products to knows that it's mixed, because they have to put cardboard separate from newsprint, separate from regular paper, and they try to do it, but they're only 85% successful. And the company will buy the paper as long as it's reasonably homogeneous. And the same goes for the tin cans and the glass. I guess the glass they don't recycle at all. They crush it up and they put it in the landfill because nobody wants to buy it. Isn't that something?
Yeah, that is.
That's terrible.
That's what they do.
Has that always been the case?
I
Because
don't know.
over 20 years ago, we were recycling glass in South Kingstown.
You would think that would be one of the easier things to
Right.
reuse.
Right.
Because the melting
And
temperature.
a lot of times I'll choose a glass thing in the store if I can,
Yeah.
as opposed to a plastic
Plastic.
thing. And I always thought that
The melting temperature of aluminum cans is like 1400 degrees F. The melting point of glass is probably half of that. So you would think that it would be easier to...
Aluminum's really intensive to manufacture.
Yeah, it is.
And recycling it is better, but it's still
Yeah.
just,
But you're still gonna melt it down and do
Trying
something.
to get glass out of, trying to get, silica out of mines and so forth. My father had, at one time thought he had tuberculosis, and turned out with silica dust in his, because he'd been in some of the tunnels and so forth. And I would think that they would use the glass and not have to mine it.
You would think, I read something where some town somewhere in the United States is getting crushed glass and putting it in with the asphalt to stretch it out and last longer as well, as a filler, rather than the sand that they put in there. Well, anyway, I think this was a good meeting.
If that's the case, then why don't we have that return policy like the other states in New England have with the glass?
If they don't
Like
do
redemption
anything
centers,
with
they
it.
don't have that here.
No, they don't.
But if they don't do anything with it anyhow, redemption center and it just ultimately goes and is crushed.
And it's separated pretty well at these redemption centers.
Right.
They separate out the glass from the aluminum pretty well.
But then what happens at the end? What is the end result? Where does it go?
Well, I guess they sell it. I guess they sell it. But I think what you're going to find, I think I read somewhere where these programs really don't solve the trash and the litter as well as they thought they would. And you go on Massachusetts Road, you still see beer bottles.
Yeah.
You still see them, even though it cost them a nickel to throw it out the door.
Well, people make a living out of collecting those
Yes.
things. My daughter used to work for a large liquor store in Boston and Austin, and they had a huge redemption center in the back, and that was how some people earn their money. Carts and carts of food that they would bring in every day, and that's how they got it, was going around. Not just litter, but they would
Sure.
rummage through people's recycle bins
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I really wonder where I could find out about what they do with them after that. Because if there's something that can be done with them, and our resource recovery is just crushing them up and putting them in the landfill, I think we ought to fuss about that. They shouldn't be doing that. And get our
Mhm.
government officials to say that's not the thing to do. Other places can find sales.
why are they so limited,
Don't know.
refunding?
I don't know.
The recyclable market plummeted last year too, and
Right,
it's
they
just
did
coming
say that.
back, so
They said that.
they were in a bad way last year because they
Couldn't
they
sell
had to
anything.
sell some of their stuff
Yeah.
instead, it wasn't a revenue stream anymore, it was actually a
Well,
cost.
when I had my business, we used to have a lot of paper trash, and cardboard from boxes of things coming in, and we used to sell it. And then the guy that we sold it to said, I'm gonna have to charge you to pick it up. So it went from, we got revenue from it to the point where we had to pay to get rid of it.
Mhm.
And that was
That's another
cardboard, which
thing
is
I was
supposed to be
wondering,
pretty
if we
good.
could get a cardboard smasher thing for the transfer station.
Or bring the cardboard container back, there was one up there.
Right.
A compactor?
Oh, it
Well,
was just
he
like a
was
big
saying-
dumpster, it was like a huge mail
But
slot on the top.
people were throwing cardboard in that wasn't flattened.
You couldn't get it in there. You had to flatten it. Did you go up there, were you there? Have you, that was-
No,
It
I
was
know
like a
he
big
said it was
dumpster,
excited, but I think there
It
was an issue.
It was not a big opening, you had to have that thing flattened to
There was
get in
a-
that hole.
But it's not flat enough, like you could sell it, like at McQuaid's where they have the cardboard smasher. If we
So
had
we
one
need
of
like a
those,
compactor type
if we had
thing.
one of those up there, we could maybe sell the cardboard that people bring up there, and that would be revenue as
What
well.
a shredding area.
It's our own recycling, yeah. We'll talk about shredding. I've got a shredder, and once a year I shred all my records,
Mhm.
and I have to take it from the bin of the shredder and put it in no, not a plastic, in a paper bag. And then I have to get the vacuum out and pick up all the pieces that are flying around,
Right, right.
and the dust, and,
One of those recycling tips that I gave you was to use your shredded paper for packing
yes, I did,
stuff in boxes when
Yeah,
you
I
ship
did
it.
that as much as I
Which
could, and I
thought
still
that
had a whole bunch.
I thought it was a good idea, and I never just thought
Yeah.
of that.
I had no shredder.
You know, much better. Okay, if there's nothing else, why don't we set the meeting, the next meeting? Does anybody,
And
in a couple of weeks, you think?
can you be sure that
I will
Bruce is
send
here?
out an email a couple of days before reminding and asking people to let me know if they're not gonna make it.
And make sure Bruce is here. Can we-
Well, that's kinda hard to do sometimes.
Well, let's tell him we've got.
So today's the 14th, how about the 28th?
That's fine with me.
July 28th?
And our discussion will be,
I am.
Review the three alternatives,
Can
three
we get,
scenarios.
are you gonna email Bruce those questions that you had written down?
Well,